The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Valley, hooey Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic can be a panic with just a good-looking pan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a plan. Hooray for Hollywood, where you're terrific if you're even good. Where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck.
Shit. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting Premiere Podcast, Damn You Hollywood. And here's your host, Robert Winfree. Yay!
Yeah, yay. So, everyone, let me just get this out of the way before I bring on our guests for the show tonight. We are talking about the third most interesting movie that came out in the last 5 days or so here, because Mark will not change his schedule for hell or high water.
Despite the studios apparently just throwing all of the movie releases into the air and then just, stepping on them at random and going, okay, this one first.
Oh, all right. I'm busy right now.
Hang
Robert.
on. So you don't have to defend yourself. Let me bring everybody on, and then we can talk about the sequence of events that led to this.
Okay. Yes, I can do my rant about the tantrum that I threw.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Go ahead.
So we are discussing Pixar's Elemental this evening. Now, this was originally supposed to have this weekend more or less to itself, but then Warner Brothers pulled a Warner Brothers.
Warner Brothers gonna Warner Brother, yo.
You know what? Normally that would be a little bit of a highbrow joke, but lately, no, I think that's pretty damn accurate.
And moved The Flash back from, it was supposed to release next week, instead they moved it to this week, and Mark refused to alter the schedule. Now, joining us to discuss this particular movie, we have Alexis Hejna from Honeysuckle Rose Creations. How are you, Alexis?
Doing good. You can always count on me when we're talking animation.
And we have joining us as well Zachary Strobel with his Legion, I say, of fans and supporters. Zach, how are you?
Yo.
Zach promises that while we're talking tonight to knock down every piece of every tool on his grandfather's wall. Yes, thank you. I asked him if he had pots and pans that he was going to bang together while I was talking tonight, and he said, no, I have tools on the wall, though. And I said, please knock them down randomly while I'm talking.
Shall be done.
Hey, who wants me to play
receive.
Hey, who wants me to play the dead horse clip?
That's not a dead horse. That's just Mungo punching a horse.
It's my beating a dead horse.
I know.
You new?
Oh, see, Robert,
No,
why are you ruining don't ruin the joke, man.
That's an explanation for anyone who might have just gone, wait, what?
That's
Because I'm a very literal person.
Before I explain my giant man tantrum, Elementals, Eternals, Chris Bailey, subtitled Forces of Nature, is a 2023 American computer animated romantic comedy, drama, horror, action taco, produced by Walt Disney Pictures and Pixar Animation Studios and distributed by Walt Disney Studio Motion Pictures, formerly a movie studio. Directed by Peter Sohn and produced by Denise Ream. It was written by Sohn, Joan Hoberg, Likkel, Brenda Hsueh, and Peter Docter, serving as executive producer. The overall 20th feature film produced by the studio. The film features the voices of Leah Lewis, Mamoudou Athie, Ronnie del Carmen, Shila, I don't know who any of these people are, Wendi McLendon-Covey, that one sounds familiar, and Catherine O'Hara. Set in a world inhabited by anthropomorphic elements of nature, the story follows fire element Ember Lumen and water element Wade Ripple, who meet and fall in love.
Please stop.
after Wade is
He
summoned.
doesn't have to. Have you seen the deviant art around Ember? It is scary.
As
Ooh,
soon
is that
as
something we can put on the air, or is that going to get us
No.
demonetized?
No. That will get us banned from every platform other than our OnlyFans. Stop it.
Wait, I haven't seen any. Can I Google that right now?
Please
please-
don't.
If
No,
you
no, no,
keep
no,
it
no, no,
on your
Zach, please do, and we need live reactions. Just don't put it on screen.
if you keep it on your phone, knock yourself out. But as soon as that trailer dropped, I knew what they were going to do to that poor character.
Arr.
Well,
Anyway.
this is the first Pixar film to be released theatrically since the start of the plague that destroyed humanity.
Last
Lightyear.
one. Hang on. The last one was Onward. No, Lightyear was Pixar. He's right. We all try to forget that Lightyear exists, but Lightyear
I'm sorry,
is Pixar.
first original Pixar film to be premiering directly to theaters in 3 years. I'm
So the
sorry,
last one
I
would've-
don't count
Don't count what- it's
Lightyear.
We'd all like to forget Lightyear exists. I know. The last one before this would have been Onward, which Mark and I reviewed right before the world ended. That was fun.
Yes. We reviewed Onward. Jesse and I reviewed the comic book adaptation movie that Vin Diesel was in, and then the world immediately ended, which is what happens when Robert abandons me on Damn You Hollywood, by the way. So if you're looking for some causation as to what caused the plague, it was Robert not wanting to do a movie review with me on a Tuesday.
I didn't want to see Bloodshot. Sue me.
Well, we will, because you caused the plague.
If
Anyway.
I
I kept saying Robert could have averted the plague if he would have let us throw him into a damn volcano.
Between you abandoning me and Cody's horrible neck tattoo, what was the world supposed to do? Go on? Come on. Anywho.
how in the world do you equate my schedule with Cody Rhodes' poor life choices about ink he puts on his body?
Sorry, so people are actually watching. Let me get on with this. Yeah, I mean, there's not much more to add to what Robert said. They moved the Flash back week to get out of the way of Indiana Jones, because I thought Indiana Jones was going to be $1 billion monster. It is, but negative $1 billion, not positive.
They really should have just thrown it head to head with them, and they both still could have just flopped.
Yeah. So instead, they counter-programmed Elemental, and here's the thing: there are times I don't mind doing 2 movies at once, usually if it's 2 streaming movies and we don't have a lot to say. There are times where I just don't, and I didn't want to double up Elemental with the Flash because, one, Elemental has a full panel on it, 4 people, there's going to be a lot of talking. It deserves the full breadth of a 2-hour Damn You Hollywood to itself. Same thing with the Flash, because even if we only spend 20 minutes talking about the movie, boy, do we have another hour and a half we have to just process the cataclysmic fall of DC on film. But besides all of that,
Not about money. It's about sending a message. Everything
The thing
burns.
burns.
yeah. So, and then it was like, well, why don't you just switch them? No, honestly, and this is besides my giant man tantrum about changing my schedule. The other thing about it was I wanted to give Flash 2 weeks because I was curious to see if word of mouth would give it a bounce back. So yeah, no, it's tanking. It's tanking like
What I've
nobody's
heard-
business.
Okay, I hate to admit it. Some asshat on Facebook spoiled the ending for me.
Okay, I don't know anything, and I've been avoiding spoilers like the plague.
I have been
Allow me to tell you everything.
Suck my dick.
I have been hearing a lot of reviewers say the only reason anyone would want to see this movie is that there is, near the end, a very large collection of Easter eggs, little in the background cameos, and a WTF moment that makes everyone just kind of go, holy crap, what were you people thinking?
Ghoulish use of CGI. And I'll yell about that when we review the movie. Believe me.
Oh, I have heard about the CGI. The
No.
director's freaking supporting it. He's defending that crap.
He couldn't do anything else. Like, he couldn't come out and bury it. He had to
Well,
come out and.
he could. There's any number of things he could have said. What he went with was we did it on purpose.
Again, he's a liar.
Which is fantastic. Look, of all the stupid things one could say to defend their art, I did it on purpose ranks as one of my favorites. Like, no. We purposely made it unreadable because time travel.
So, couple of things, just very briefly.
I was going to say, for the record, Robert, am I right with what I'm saying?
Tell Alexis she's right and that she's a pretty girl, please. Can we move this on?
I mean,
Oh, Robert will never say that to me.
hang on. If you're... How do I phrase this? I don't mean this insultingly. So, because it might come across that way. I don't mean this as an insult. If you're of a particular age demographic, because that has to be in place, believe it or not, for this, and you are distracted by surprise that has no purpose, it'll work for it. Like, you will get that reaction. Like, I can see how people have the reaction. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I know everything because I don't care about spoilers for that piece of crap. So when I say ghoulish use of CGI, I actually have ethical concerns over some of it. But again, I'll save it. I'll save it. And the fact that the story literally goes nowhere.
I haven't seen it yet either, but again, someone spoiled for it. But I have been paying attention to a lot of online reviews because, we're in this job. So every now and then I just go over to Jeremy Johns and Chris Stuckman. But yeah, every review I have read for the Flash. Oh, bite me. Every review so far cannot help but mention the atrocious CGI for the Flash. It's like the one consistent.
Because I don't want any
really
spoilers.
bad.
I haven't listened to the Critical Drinkers thing on it, but his subtitle was The Flash, a hot mess. Hey, do we want to talk about
Critical
the movie?
Drinker doesn't like anything.
That's
Shut up.
not
Yes, he
true.
does.
No,
Jesus
hey, hang
Christ.
on. He's a little bit like me in the sense that it's rare that you find something that he likes, but that it's not fair to say he doesn't like anything.
Well, no, I'm gonna get in Alexis's ass about this because if you actually look at his channel, he's like The Menu. I think he liked The Covenant. There's
like the menu, yeah.
Yeah, there was like 2 or 3 things just in most recent history that he said he liked. It's just like every third video he actually finds something like The Drinker recommends, blah blah yakety schmackety. He just doesn't like what you like, Alexis. There's a difference. See, there's a difference.
Sorry, I'm the little positive ray of sunshine.
You and my wife can go bowling.
I don't like bowling.
Sunshine and bubbles is what she calls it, or whatever, rainbows and bubbles. Hey, there's like a lot of people watching this. As much as I now want to do TikTok content, I almost feel like we should get into this stupid film.
Yeah, so again, we're talking Elemental. Do we want to talk about Carl and Doug first?
This was the first time in quite some years that we have had a opening cartoon before a Pixar and/or Disney premiere.
Finally.
And it is also worth noting this was Ed Asner's final performance.
Yeah, so let's do that briefly. So the opening cartoon is what is it? Carl's Date, I think is the actual subtitle. So it features everyone's favorite curmudgeon, Carl from Up, and everyone's favorite dog, everyone's favorite CGI dog, Doug. And Carl and Doug are, living in the retirement community. He gets a phone call. It's from someone who adopted the former Alpha, now Beta. So the two dogs have a conversation over the phone, but it's that particular Doberman got adopted by a elderly woman who asks Carl out on a date, and he agrees, and he proceeds to freak out.
Oh, freak out! Sachi, freak out!
Please take that off the screen, or I'm going to start singing the theme song.
Dun 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 dun.
I knew somebody would get my reference there.
Yeah. Hey, you cannot deny the power of the great Stonini.
You cannot. Anyway. So he freaks out. He doesn't know what to do. Doug gives some advice that is, some of it's okay, some of it's dog.
I particularly enjoyed you'll sniff her butt, she'll sniff your butt. It was fantastic. And considering some of the places I hang out, that would be an appropriate greeting.
Please, let's not discuss your time spent with furries.
Oh, man.
I thought Robert was the furry.
How did you ever get that impression of me?
The multitude of times I watched the TikTok clip of us looking at our Sonic the Hedgehog variations of our names.
Look, my understanding of the subculture does not mean I am a participant in the subculture.
No, Rob's a rigger. That's what I've decided you are. I used to joke about you being a rope bunny, but that's just to make me laugh because I think rope bunny is a funny term. But I've decided that you're an actual that behind the scenes, behind the doors, when you move the bookshelf and and the hidden wall disappears and you go into your dungeon that nobody else in your family knows about that I just outed on this public forum is your rigging where you shibari people willingly, consensually, always consensual.
Consensual
shibari is what you're known on FetLife. I found out. Anyone want to continue this? Be my guest.
That's
So-
actually that is
so- okay,
not
so-
my handle on FetLife, for the record.
Okay,
We'll
so
talk later.
this is not the first time we've gotten shorts with Carl and Doug.
Is
Disney
there like a whole there's a whole series on Disney Plus, right?
which
Yeah, they
Mark
do
and
that.
I briefly discussed not too long ago. We had a lot of fun, mostly just talking about how Doug is the perfect incarnation of what we all know dogs are like. I'm correct me if I'm wrong. I believe all four of us here are dog lovers, dog owners.
Former dog
Dogs
owner.
themselves disguised as people.
What? I looked at Snapchat for a second. What happened here?
He outed himself as the furry. He's the furry of the group, so let's leave that alone.
This is a weird podcast, and I feel bad for Zachary's friends that are watching.
Pixar
What friends?
does
We
weird-
already lost 3 people in the last 5 seconds.
Pixar does weird stuff to our reviews. I apologize to everyone out there. So again, there's that. Then again, Carl is not sure how he gets to proceed with his life now that his wife's dead and he doesn't know what to do or what to feel. Doug is being as supportive as he can be, and he kind of gives him a pep talk and says, "Be less like a dog, be less like a human, be more like a dog. You will see her, and you will say, even though I just met you, I love you with all my heart, and it will be great." And Carl decides to go on the date, and Doug says, "Bring the leash, I'll go be your emotional support animal." And they walk off together, and it's really heartwarming.
It is really cute that Doug's going to be the chaperone.
All right,
The
I'm
one
gonna jump out. So this one, we'll talk when we talk about Elemental. I'll talk about how some of the relationships stuff there hit me personally, and kind of I had a few gut punch cry moments. This one, I kind of ugly cried. I've told the story about my wife and I and our unfortunate first child and what happened, and then watching Up shortly thereafter. And now neither one of us knew that was going to happen, and it was not a good day at the office. So I've always had kind of a tenuous relationship with the movie Up, especially that first 10 minutes. And
Everyone does.
I think just to get through this, without going into a lot of my own personal stuff, I've definitely had to mourn the loss of relationships in the past year and a half, or mourn the kind of relationship that I had that got overtaken by something completely different. And when I watch a guy longingly look at a picture of him and his departed wife and feeling like he's almost betraying her by moving on, by trying to find love elsewhere, that it hurts me in particular. That's how I related to it. That short is a hard watch for me to watch, because I see this guy who wants to maintain loyalty to his departed wife while also wanting to find love and companionship and the full breadth of the human experience. And I empathize with both standpoints. It's a sweet short, because also, without getting too personal, I didn't date for 15 years because I was married. Or as Sam Kinison would say, I was married for 2 fucking years. There you go, on camera.
Please, the less Kinnison references. you can
Shut
make.
up. Sam Kinison is on my Mount Rushmore of comedians, you heathen.
Yeah, right next to Patrice. Eh?
I was going to go with Red Fox, but sure. Anywho, so, I was married for...
It's funnier if you put him right next to Patrice O'Neill on the mountain.
Okay. I was married for 14, 15 years, and then I had to find myself suddenly dating again. Here's what I've learned. It's a skill you have to redevelop when you've lost it. And it's not easy. And so that's the other part of the thing that I empathize with, and I thought that was really captured well by the writing team of this short, was this idea of it's a muscle that weakens and entropies over time, and when you don't use it. Sorry. Entrophies over time when you don't use it. Atrophy. Sorry.
Entropy is different than atrophy.
Entropy is what I'm going through currently. Atrophy. Chris Bailey. I got it. All right. So it's a muscle that atrophies over time, and when you don't use it, and then you suddenly have to use it, It's, you know, like if you've ever gone to the gym and you pick up weights for the first time, you're like, ow, the pain. That's what happens. And you know, and especially when the culture has fucking moved on and you're still trying to figure out like how you fit into things. I thought they did a really good job with bringing all that out. I think my one minor, and this is just a personal thing, my one minor complaint about Carl's date is I kind of wanted to see how the date went. Or at the very least, flash forward.
See them coming back.
Home.
Like during the credits or something.
Yeah, just, you know, maybe just, well, how did it go? You know? But I'm not going to sit there and throw eggs at the screen over it. I was too busy crying. So that was my take on Carl's date. I thought it was very well done. The shorts are always hit and miss with Disney and Pixar with me. This one was a big hit, if for no other reason because of all my personal connections to it. Alexis.
Again, I loved the Carl and Doug shorts that we got on Pixar or on Disney Plus. You know, they weren't anything major and monumental, but they were very fun and very sweet. There is something just touching about a retiree and his dog and just kind of going through day-to-day life. And it is really touching to see things like this. Again, this was Ed Asner's final piece. I don't think a lot of us knew that he had done any more recordings after the original Carl and Doug shorts and his brief appearance in the Muppets Haunted Mansion.
Well, I think this was supposed to be the last episode of Doug Days, but I think they decided to save it for the big screen.
That wouldn't surprise me, and that's not a bad idea. I like that they actually did that, especially since the final episode of Doug Days ended on such a great moment, a really great speech from Ed Asner about the bond of him as the owner and the dog. So I really like that they ended that way, and they kept Carl's date as a theatrical short.
Robert, any thoughts on the short?
Jokes about the furry subculture aside, because what I'm about to say might, like, set that aside for just a second here, okay?
Okay, we'll try.
As someone who has occasionally lamented his inability to express some of the virtues that you see in dog-human relations, or has kind of desperately sought them, Doug's got a special place in my heart. The big dumb idiot. He's fluffy, and he tries so hard, and his heart's in the right place.
Should add, I am glad to hear that all the other dogs were. It's a stupid little note, but I love that they confirmed that all of, I can't even remember the name of the bad guy from Up.
Mince?
Was it Mince? Yeah, I love that all of Mince's other dogs have been adopted.
They are good boys, even if they were bad boys.
I'm a big proponent for adoption, shelter dogs. I am always happy to hear things like that. That puts a smile on my face.
So, again, watching the relationship between those two, that's always going to hit me a little close to home. I don't relate
to how we all reacted to it in different ways. That's funny.
I also, as the most perpetually single of this particular enclave, having never had a serious non-long distance relationship. It is, man. It's like the scene where he comes down the stairs with his hair all dyed black.
Fucking the dog's reaction. You are not my owner, or whatever it was he said.
He growls and he goes, "You don't look like you. You don't smell like you."
Yeah.
Oh, the dog's reaction to the cologne. Get it out of my nose.
Without doing another hour on the ups and downs and perils of dating, I think at one point or another we've all kind of been there where you have contorted yourself into a pretzel that is not like you in order to go on a date or be in a relationship, and like everyone else around you is like, what Frankensteinian monster have you turned yourself into? What's wrong with you? Yeah, I got that moment.
So there's a lot there. Again, it's a fun little short. It's sweet. It's well done. Thumbs up. I'm not going to say anything too bad about it.
Zach, any thoughts on the short before we move on?
It was really good. I thought it was. I think I miss the shorts not because sometimes they're really funny and stuff but also I like it because it also gave the animators okay, like before they animated, and they used to do this like in the old school days with like Walt Disney and whatever, where they used to like give someone before a short, they gave that before a movie, they let them test out new animators and test out their stories. So I thought it was practical. So it was practical too, though, but it was really nice, and it was. I thought it was good, and I was about to walk out. I'm like, that was a short movie, but then
and we're done here, right? We're good.
Yeah, wasn't about anything about advertised, but it was. Then I realized the movie was started.
Okay, for the record, the villain in Up is Muntz, M-U-N-T-Z.
Oh, Muntz.
Entropy, got it.
One letter off.
Entropy, understood. Hey, Alexis, put on your animation professor cap for just one moment in your amateur animation historian cap. This is the best one they've done since whatever the one they did that was sort of a musical and it had to do with like the Polynesian islands and whatnot. Because I feel like that's the best one they've done. That was the best one prior to this.
I can't remember what the name of that one is.
Lava.
Lava, thank you. It's like I knew it was something simple like that, and that is a really great short.
I was gonna say I don't feel like they've done a better one since Lava until Carl's Date. At least not for me, at least. And I was curious to see what you thought.
I'd have to double check up which ones came out in which order.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Unfortunately, when it comes to the shorts, I have to admit a lot of them I can't remember what movies they were tied to unless I like rewatched the DVDs ad infinitum.
What's a DVD?
Okay. All right, so, go away, Zach. All right,
you wouldn't know I'm sending you VHSs.
That's true. That's
I'm
different.
about ready to. You're gonna get beta tapes from me and then get thrown off the show. All right,
I have beeswax cylinders you can play on your phonograph.
Seriously, I had a couple of Rocky and Bullwinkle VHS tapes that were at that garage sale I hosted last weekend. Mr. Strobel here put in a request for them.
I have giant reel-to-reels that I play on my phonograph that was invented by Thomas Edison. Oh, for fuck, you want to go with this, Robert?
You want to see my cave painting?
You want to see me clang two rocks together?
Yes. All right. Speaking of clanging two rocks together, Robert, with his 50 words or less plot synopsis, go.
Okay, so...
Remember, people are watching, and this is where we lose the entire audience.
So, on the island of Manhattan, Element City, we are introduced to two immigrants to Element City. They are fire elementals, Bernie and Cinder. And
get used to the name puns. Get
a
used to all the puns.
They have arrived in Element City from Fireland, which is across the sea somewhere.
Fire Island.
I was going to say, unfortunately, the minute I saw it, it's like, well, we can't say Fire Island and we can't say Fire Nation because gonna sue.
We could say Fire Nation because they did attack.
We could say Firestarter and play Prodigy.
Could say Firestarter and reference Stephen King, but let's just go with what we've got.
We could say Firestarter and watch the Amazing Spider-Man cartoon with Iceman. You want to keep going with this?
Admittedly, there are very limited options for what you can name a place that is associated with fire.
It is a limited pool from which you can draw.
Yeah, copyright Nazis have already gone through most of them.
I was really hoping for Caldera Town, but here we are.
God.
Anyway, they arrive and they immediately face all kinds of discrimination because, immigrants. And Marlon Wayans walks across the screen, yells message very loudly, and then walks off.
In his post office suit.
Well, also because they are fire, and water doesn't want to mix well with fire, and earth is mostly like greenery, and they are scared of fire because they will burn.
And none of Element City has been designed with the fire people in mind. We actually see the order in which Element City was founded. It was the water people, then the earth, then the air, and now the fire. And so our poor hero Bernie has to find some broke down old corner, and he buys a piece of property and fixes it up and renames the entire area Hell's Kitchen. Sorry, Firetown. Daredevil, Rise of the Night.
God damn it, you got that before I did.
And more fire immigrants come around, and now we have Ethnic Town. Ethnic humor.
Little Fire Italy.
You can listen to the beautiful ethnic serenade.
You really can. And he and his wife have a daughter, Ember, who is one of our main protagonists. And we see them build up their shop where he runs a deli. He runs a deli. That's basically what he does. And it's just fire themed. So, they make coals and they sell wood and lighter fluid and all other kinds of fire related paraphernalia. And Bernie is raising Ember to take over the shop, and she seems relatively enthused about this, but like so many women, doesn't actually know what she wants, and when the opportunity comes, she doesn't actually want it.
Spot on. 100% with you.
But her big issue is trying to control her temper.
Hang on, the worst part about this is that Alexis still is uncomfortable being on camera, so we can't see her lose patience with us, as we are mildly misogynistic.
Yeah, Mark,
I've given up with trying to correct you two when you're mildly
I didn't say
misogynistic.
correct. I just wanted to see the tumor on your head grow.
I'm a tumor. I'm a tumor.
Thank you.
I'm a tumor. I'm a tumor. I'm a tumor.
So she, as everyone who has worked in retail does, she loses her patience with the idiot customers.
And blows up.
Okay, is anyone refresh my memory? Anyone else here spent a considerable amount of time in working retail and or sales?
Yes.
Yes.
The dude who she sees the sparklers and it's buy one get one free, and he keeps insisting, "Well, I just want the free one."
And you say that's stealing, fuckface. Now get out. Maybe lose that stealing part and just yell fuckface. I mean, or either way.
No, it's like I've never had someone say that directly to me, either working previous sales or at my current work with my company. But I have had so many jackasses try to exploit some kind of loophole about it. I was like, if I buy enough of these, can I get these for free? It's just like, oh my God.
People ask me why I work in the jail, and there's a very simple reason. When someone acts like that, I can have deputies drag them away from me screaming. Good enough.
Anyway, she's given the responsibility of running their red dot sale, one of their big deals.
Target gonna sue.
It goes poorly. Target can't afford to sue at this point. I saw what their stock did. She runs to the basement to blow up in private, blows up, but the shockwave from her explosion jostles loose obstruction in a pipe, and out flows Wade, who is a city inspector, and he pops up and he goes, "Oh boy, look at all this flooding. This isn't up to code. Look at all these pipes. It's exposed. Yeah, that's not up to code." And he writes a bunch of tickets and then says, "Well, I'll go turn these into City Hall. You're probably going to get shut down. Have a nice day." And like every other bureaucrat who needs to be shot in the head, he just wanders away.
What are you, Kid Rock? All you bastards at the IRS? They're just doing their job, man.
It's a worse reference than Kid Rock, believe it or not. It's a Rick and Morty reference.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I don't watch your lowbrow animation shows.
No, one of the first episodes, Rick tells Morty to shoot a bunch of people chasing them and he calls them robots.
No, I watch elevated television for adults.
Shut up.
And
watch
so I was
Family Guy.
I was reminded with the pipe thing. Poor fucking Big Chief Lambro on Treme season 3, as he's like, I rebuilt all the plumbing myself, and he was like, without an inspection from a plumber or a certificate, yeah, I'm gonna have to turn off your water. Like, I'm fucking dying here, man. The federal government abandoned us after Katrina. They're like, I hear what you're saying, but here's your ticket.
We had enough plumber animated movies. Thank you.
Dun 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 dun. Bum.
All right, moving on.
So Ember starts chasing him through the streets of Element City. She leaves Firetown for the first time and is exposed to the wonders of Element City. But she can't stop him from putting his report into the mnemonic tube, and it offs. And then she gives him the sob story, and he breaks down and sobs like a lot. He's an overly emotional fellow. He cries more than Mark. Just gouts of tears all over the place.
Gouts of tears? I have never heard that as a unit of measurement.
Sweaters of tears.
Entropy of tears.
So I prefer. Okay, Zachary actually got it better. Sweater of tears. Thank you. The boy cries you a sweater of tears.
So he hears the sob story and goes, well, let me help you navigate the bureaucracy of Element City. So we can go to my immediate supervisor and try to stop him from sending these reports along, and we'll see what we can do. And they find the slow-moving Earth elemental, who is... This was so clearly a reference to Sloth from the DMV and Zootopia. It just
also
hurt my
a
soul.
reference to What's Her Nuts from Monsters Inc. This is an ongoing
Mhm.
gag.
And he's about to put the reports move them on up the chain, and Ember blows up, and he goes, well, guess I get to leave work early. And like everyone who works for the government, I don't blame him one iota. Sends it
into the-
on up.
Thunk.
Another thunk. And then they give Ember a brochure, so your business is closing. And Wade goes, well, we'll go talk to my boss in a bit. So they go talk with the super boss, who is a air elemental at a airball game. I have to mention this. So I saw this movie with my mother. My mother, whom I love dearly, was an intelligent woman with a master's degree in speech language pathology, and could not stop laughing at the fart jokes about the teams.
Because Pixar was always known for its fart jokes.
The two teams in question being the Windbreakers and the Crop Dusters.
Mhm. Yep, this is highbrow family entertainment, everybody. It really is befuddling to me why people in mass have given up on Disney and Pixar.
The world may never know. So they go to the game. She makes a bit of a connection with this air elemental who says, look, if you can fix the actual problem, because the water should be shut off to Firetown for safety reasons. But Wade had found it there, and apparently everyone is bad at their job, so they can't find a giant hole in the canal system. But if you can go fix that, we'll call it even. So Ember and Wade go on a date. They go find the hole. They throw sandbags in front of it like you do and go, yay, problem solved. And Wade goes, yeah, I'll get a city works crew down here and we'll all be good. And Ember goes back to work, and then it turns out, no, the city works crew won't do it for this particular government agency because they really don't like Wade, who accidentally cemented a bunch of them.
They make
Like
it
you
clear
do.
Wade's semi-accident prone and has gone through a couple of jobs lately.
So that's not working. Ember's a little bit distraught over this, but they don't quite know what to do about it. They try to get more sandbags. Eventually, Wade realizes, oh, Ember's got a talent for making glass. So she goes, oh, wait, I can use this to patch the hole in the infrastructure. This will work well. So they go back, they take sandbags, they patch the hole in the canal with tempered glass. Everything's sort of hunky-dory. Except throughout all their conversations and time together, Ember's realized she doesn't really want to inherit her father's shop, but he's sick and he's old and he wants to retire and he wants to leave the shop to her. Very standard internal struggle. We meet Wade's family, and they're all just as bad about crying as he is. Just the most emotionally... There's whatever the opposite is of emotionally unavailable, that's these idiots.
They play. It's like they play a game called the Crying Game, where the point is.
And I had a very different reaction when he said, "Let's play the crying game."
Why? It's Pride Month after all, people. Come on.
We're all too old for this shit.
We've all seen too many of
the year of our Lord 2023 in the middle of Pride Month. What are we doing here?
We've all seen way too many movies.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, they play games where they try not to cry as someone just describes sad things or emotional things to them.
Yes.
And this is all set against the backdrop of elements not being able to mix because, well, if you put fire and water together, bad things tend to happen to the individual elements.
I do love the fact that somebody at Pixar was like, we haven't discussed misogyny. Like...
You're not wrong.
In the year of our Lord 2023, what we really need to discuss is race mixing. The fuck? What is happening at Pixar?
Somebody watched Oz.
Or fucking Far From Heaven, which I watched today. Great movie, by the way.
Fair enough. So
You'll
Wade
know
and
more about it on Monday.
Yeah. Wade and Ember show up. Again, they go on a few dates and they discover that they're capable of touching as long as they're careful without killing each other.
Ah.
But Ember rejects this. Don't do it, Mark. Again, if you want to see that, I can point you to the dark corners of the internet. Leave it alone. But Ember rejects his advances, going, this can never quite work, and I'm going to not go become a famous glass blower, glass artist of some variety. Don't do it, Mark. I know you almost put your finger up again. Don't do it.
It is kind of a cool scene that with Wade's family, they accidentally break a glass pitcher, and we have seen in previous things that she's pretty good at fixing broken glass. We see her fix the broken glass window at the family store, and she's like, "Oh, here, I got this," and she makes this absolutely gorgeous pitcher out of it. It's like, it was actually a really cool scene to see that happen.
It was.
And she's basically got an internship offer because who doesn't love an unpaid internship?
They never say it's unpaid.
My assumption is all internships are unpaid until proven otherwise. But the job offer is in a city far away, and she can't leave her family like that. And so she goes back, and she's about to inherit the store, and there's going to be a grand reopening. And then Wade crashes the party like a jerk and says, "Please, I love you, and I think you love me too." And she says, "No, I don't love you. Go away.
You're a bad dog, Lassie. You need to run away."
You know, I tell you, it's very rare when I see a movie where a woman is giving mixed signals. A guy completely befuddled by a woman's behavior. Didn't you in the last? What? Okay, sure.
So,
also, it's hard. It's hard because, you know, it's not like I've never heard a woman say grand gestures to show you love me. Okay, grand gesture to show I love you. Get the fuck out of here. What are you doing? You're embarrassing. Okay, I think I've just about got all the bitterness out. Thanks.
all right. Your
Just
your grand gesture does not involve six figures, so it clearly doesn't count.
Ouch. Zing. Welcome to the She Haters Club.
No, look, my experience with this. Let me just very briefly.
Oh no.
No, very briefly. Anyone asking for a grand gesture, that's the mentality.
Yep. No. Okay. Moving on.
So that's all. That's not everyone. That's just potential red flag there, people. Anyone asking for that, like, just
Okay.
Just be aware. Anyway, because the power of the tempered glass that Ember used to block the canal is directly tied to the strength of her feelings for Wade. It shatters now that they've broken up.
Okay, was that actually a thing?
I have no idea. That's the closest thing I can get to an explanation for it. There's no
I just
reason.
assumed that even tempered glass. Okay, so we see that canal, even though there's a hole in it, they haven't repaired all the water that's still building up there.
Yeah, I would.
Eventually, that pressure is. Eventually, that pressure is going to break something.
Yeah, I thought it just degraded and shattered. I don't think there was a. I mean, there may have been like an implied ethereal thematic connection, but I don't think it was an actual like metaphysical thing.
Again, I have no idea. This is just another example of bad civic projects. you can't trust.
All right, so back to what happens in this animated version of New Orleans.
So, well, it's Gotham at the end of the Batman when the levees break and it gets flooded, and then the Batman is leading them through with a flare.
Yes, walking into machine gun fire.
And he fights off a bunch of guys with shotguns in the 18th scene he's done that with. And
not sparkling to many a girl's chagrin.
He was sparkling on the inside, Mark, because he's... never mind. Listen to our review of the Batman if you want to see my bitterness at that particular film.
As he fucks off and makes a sandwich because I like the movie too much.
I had nothing to contribute. I may as well have eaten.
There.
So this breaks. Firetown floods. Wade shows up to help save Ember and the family, and they save their culturally significant blue flame. But during the course of this flooding, Wade and Ember wind up trapped together in a room, and it's overheating, and he is boiling, and he can't get out, but he has no regrets. So they embrace, and he turns into steam. And then everyone has a good cry, and then because everyone's crying, the walls start crying, and Wade is ejected condensation, people. Condensation is what happens. Wade returns. Wade and Ember's father's like, no, you don't understand, daughter. My dream was never just this shop. You and your happiness was my dream. So please go do what you're going to do. I don't mind retiring. And he sells the shop to a couple of other fire people. And the example of Ember and Wade sets off a string of mixed elemental relationships throughout these people are heroes.
Admittedly, that was probably not the best jump to point after that.
My favorite part was when they signed the Civil Rights Act for Elemental Town.
These stunning and brave people just solve all these problems. Anyway, as they are set to leave. Ember to go take up this new job. Wade's going with her because he is a bag of milk and will just be the emotionally supportive.
Look, if I've learned nothing in the past year and a half, it's that every woman wants an emotional support boy.
You're not wrong.
I was not going to say anything to the contrary.
Hey, I got an emotional support boy going with me to Austin this weekend.
There you go. See, every girl needs an emotional support boy.
And so they leave, and as they leave, Ember and her father share a significant bow between the two of them that Bernie tried to give to his father when they left the old country. We're not sure which old country, but one of the old countries.
Fireland.
It's a Simpsons reference. Don't worry about it.
Fire Italy.
And his father wouldn't share it with him because he thought them leaving ruined everything. You'll no longer be fire people. You'll forget who you are. Next thing you know, your daughter will be dating a water guy, and then cats and dogs living together.
Mass hysteria.
But our movie cuts as they board the ship to go off to wherever they're going off to. Elemental Philadelphia. I don't know, wherever they're doing the art stuff. Then we get a little bit of a montage at the end of how things played out. Different people, different characters who might have gotten together. It's a nice little, heartwarming final montage per usual. All
right, Zach, the Lego Maniac, hit it. Tell us all your brilliant insights and opinions about this movie.
Well, I really like the part with the giant castle and the bouncing lamp. That part, I think, was a really good way they started the movie. But no, with all seriousness, I think this was like the first Pixar movie, I'm going to say, in my opinion, since Soul to actually feel like a Pixar movie. And I know they've been trying to do more different styles and different things, but this is and I know it's been a cliche now for Pixar to be like, what if blank had feelings? But let's be honest, it's a formula that's really worked for them, and they've created some of their best work with that formula. But yeah, this is the first time and the thing about this movie is a lot of the past movies since Soul, I think, have just been okay. And I think this is the first Pixar movie that I personally think was good. Now, it's not okay. It's not bad. I think it's good. I think it's obvious they wanted to make it. Obviously knew what it wanted to be. It wanted to be a rom-com. They wanted to put the chemistry and the story first, which I think that's where Pixar usually prevails. I think their story and characters. Now, the only thing that makes this good is that we've seen this story and these characters before, but they do it well. Unfortunately, I think they did their job a little too well because I think they kind of put everything a little bit ahead. The plot is it's their chemistry is more important than, shouldn't we fix that Dammer thing? It's not important to how we feel.
That's no time to fix the levees. We've got romance on the brain.
Well, by the way, was everyone in the city? Was it just everyone's? No, day off. I could understand. Was it everyone's week off of work? They're the only ones fixing that. Sorry.
Look, I'm not. We can sit here for. I don't want to be here for an hour discussing the lack of civic planning in a Pixar.
Clearly,
movie.
a city run by Democrats.
I mean,
God.
But I'll spare you. But yeah, no, I really liked it. I like I think I like Ember. I thought she was very hot. Because she's made of fire.
Oh, good. I like that you're now doing puns and then explaining them, Zach.
Yes.
Because explaining the pun makes it funnier.
Explaining the joke always makes it funnier, Mark.
Yes.
That's the rule.
Yes, I learned that in elementary school. And the movie is... I deserve that.
I wanted to hold that before you reached for that mouse, Mark.
I deserve that, but I have no regrets. But no, I really liked that it was colorful. I thought it was good. I think good is a pretty good... And I know that's not the most descriptive word ever, but I mean, it's a great step in the right direction for Pixar, because the thing is, people always assume that their movies were going to be good even before they came out. And then...
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
So top tier is Toy Story 3,
Up.
Finding Nemo.
First
Mid-tier,
Incredibles.
yeah. Mid-tier is like Cars, Brave, Onward. Low tier, The Good Dinosaur, Cars 2. Where would you rank Elemental?
I would say it's not their A material. I would say it's like their B material. So maybe between
So it's kind of like higher mid tier, like a B plus.
yeah, like a B
Mid-tier.
plus. That's what I would rate it. I think it's good. I don't think anyone's really gonna like be like quoting it or remembering it too well, like in the next 5-10 years. But I mean, it was a good movie for what it was. I mean, do I know it's not like glowing review saying, hey, get off your butt at 10 o'clock, almost 11 o'clock at night and go see this thing. But I mean, if you don't want to see anything else, I mean, it's good. It's pretty. I always, yeah. There was something else, but those were my puns.
We can come back to you. Alexis, show us where you pissed from.
Okay, well, one of the first things I want to talk about is the exceptional animation in this. And obviously with Pixar, we always expect top tier, best of the best. And this movie is definitely a showcase of how amazing they are in their talent. I noticed a lot of little things that really stood out to me. Firstly, as Zach, someone who's worked in animation before, will agree with me, this was so hard to conceptualize. You have characters who are made of fire, which means that they are literally walking light fixtures. You need to have the lighting around them change. This is insanely hard to do in animation, to have moving light and to have that light, not just like standard, regular light bulb, but moving light through the flames, constantly changing around all of the backgrounds and the items, all these other shadows having to change based on where these characters stand. You have translucent water characters, and you can see the way the light bounces and reflects through them, and it looks like real water. It doesn't just look like, oh, look, they're clear, like a ghost or something. No, you can see the texture in the water of characters like Wayne and his family. And I love how much character they put into all of these different elements, even the way they move. All of the different elements have different walk cycles. They have different movements with how they just stand around. You notice that Ember kind of just like prances a little bit when she walks. She's very light-footed in her steps. I am not trying to do puns. But then you have Wade, who is literally like a wave, like a moving wave when he walks. Then you have the air people who are floating, and they just are kind of moving with the breeze. And to give that much character to all of this is really incredible. Like I said, I love the design of Element City. It is gorgeous to look at. We have so many different textures, reflecting light, bouncing light off of it, because they mentioned that almost all the buildings are made of freaking glass. And they really make it stand out. It's gorgeous to look at. So from a technical standpoint, I cannot praise this movie enough. I think it is some of Pixar's best work. It shows why they've always been at the running front of some of the best computer animation in the business. I will admit, on a grand scheme, this is not my favorite Pixar film by any stretch. A lot of people complain that the story's cliche, and yeah, it is. If you're expecting something new out of this, no, you're not gonna get it. But for the most part, I think it's kind of harmless. I mean, yeah, it's not groundbreaking. It's not gonna hit you in the feels like Toy Story 3 and up. But it is a well-told film. All of the actors are really good. I actually found a nice little bit of trivia here. The actor who played Bernie, he's actually not an actor. He is a staff member at Pixar. He's an immigrant from the Philippines. So they wanted him to play Bernie because he actually has kind of that story to tell in what he does. I also found it interesting, the director, Peter Sohn, he is the son of Korean immigrants. Hell, his parents set up a little fruit and veggie shop when they first got to America. Sound familiar? So there is a lot of there's a lot of personality and a lot of heart in a story like this. And as someone who, I'm not an immigrant, I am not the child of immigrants, my husband is, and I have seen just, how hard people like that work when they get into this country. I think this is a very moving story for those who know what that's like. And again, I'm not going to rank it up there with the best of the best with Pixar. It is very good. I don't get a lot of the negative reviews that people have been throwing at it. They're like, oh, it's such a cliche story. It's so boring. It's like, yes, it's cliche, but it's harmless. There is nothing.
Let me quick piggyback on that.
Yeah.
Anytime a reviewer says something is cliche, it's because they don't really want to watch the movie, because there's only X amount of stories out there in the naked fictional universe. It's what you do with them, not that they exist. So the whole it's a cliche thing, that's a straw man argument for somebody going, why'd you make me go see the kid movie?
I'm gonna push back on that a little bit, but I'll wait till.
Oh, there was something I remember what I wanted to say, but I'll wait till this is done.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wanted to just piggyback on that. So finish your point.
All right. No, my point is, from a standpoint of how often we get stuck watching movies that we say, for the love of God, no one should have to sit through this. Why the hell did we suffer through this crap? This was a sweet.
See next week.
Yeah, exactly. This was a sweet, fun, cute movie, beautifully animated. And it's harmless. There is nothing in this film I would consider negative or sending a bad message, or even sending they're just trying to preach to you kind of message. It's a fun, harmless movie. Take your kids to see it. You'll have a good time.
I did take my kids to see it. I took my two kids, my wife's emotional support boy, and his child. And I've often, people been watching the podcast for a while, that my daughter actively rejects romance and anything that's romantic or sexual on screen. And she, in a total girl moment, was squeeing every time something romantic happened on screen. I'm going to start at the. I'm going to start.
I was just going to say the romance between Wade and Ember is actually well developed.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I don't know if she's just changing as a person or what, but it hit her and she reacted to it, which I think was a mark of a good movie. And when you get the intended audience to react the way you want them to, slow clap, well done. So big ups there. I wanted to. Everyone that I saw the movie with thought it was a well-told story. It was solid. I don't really have a lot of complaints about it. The things I want to add to the discussion are just some of the feels moments that hit me. I talked about this with Sean last night, specifically regarding Ed Wood and Boys Don't Cry, about the idea of we were talking about coming out, and how when you come out, when you make decisions about your life, or you try to live your best life, you can sometimes disappoint and upset the people around you. The part about her being enthusiastic about accepting the father's, taking over the father's business because that's what she thought her father wanted, and she did not want to disappoint him, but secretly she had these other dreams in mind, and she did not want to act upon them because she did not want to disappoint her father. That hit me personally, as somebody who has perpetually disappointed his parents and who has now experiencing a spouse who is, because of her life decisions, is finding herself to be on the outs with her family and living with having been, should I be happy or should I disappoint the people, who I love and want the respect from? It was hard because like we're experiencing that in real life and we saw it on film and portrayed, and that is a struggle. I think that is a struggle that a lot of people can identify with. I think it's one of the great strengths of the movie. Have you ever been the person who has to swallow your dreams in order to make the people around you happy? And I think the movie handled it well. One might say, oh, of course, she ends up doing what she wants to do and the father's okay with it. I mean, like, would you want it to? How do you want the movie to end? Like the father's like disowns her. Like, well, go be one of the water people then. I don't ever want to see you again. It's just a fucking Pixar movie, for God's sake, for children. It's gonna work out. It'll be fine. So there was that. There were, some of the relationships stuff. Like, I don't want to go through it all again, but difficulties with relationships, the bottling up of feelings, the lashing out that the movie deals with between the two star-crossed lovers, that all hit me pretty hard. And I had a couple of different moments where I reacted emotionally to it. Again, I thought it was very well done. I think my only, and this might just have just been the exhaustion talking, but the only real criticism I have of the movie is its length is approximately almost 2 hours. It's 109 minutes long. I don't know. This could have stood to be a little shorter. I think there were times I thought it dragged. Some of the pacing seems to be off, but maybe a second rewatch when I'm not, tired, I might feel differently. But on first watch, it seems to drag at times.
That's more because of narrative.
Mm-hmm.
There's narrative issues with this.
Yeah, it was. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead, jump in because I don't have a whole lot more to say.
Yeah. The only thing what I was gonna say was it's like towards the end they were doing pretty well, and then it was like third act. It's like, and they were like, when they were writing this thing, they were probably like, so what kind of cliches do you want? And they were just like, yes. And it was weird. And the thing is, I don't mind. Okay, I do mind those cliches because we've seen them 100 times. But the thing is, they're just so quickly resolved. So it's just that was like the only thing that really bothered me, like story wise, about this. Like.
Well, okay, the last thing I want to bring up is, so I was actually cutting the TikTok for Doctor Strange, and I think that's when I brought up my son going, nobody ever dies in these fucking Marvel movies. I'm about over it. Like, there's no stakes. I mentioned it then. I like to mention it every once in a while because my son is the apple of my eye, and he's brilliant.
You lose the 8-year-olds.
Yeah, when you lose the elementary school age students, you fucked up. So I was sitting there and I'm watching this, and they kill Wade, and I'm like, do they have the balls to leave him dead?
Not
and they don't. But hang on. I'm not going to complain too hard about it. I'm not going to beat that particular horse because the way they brought him back, and given the fact that he is water and that does work that way, I was like, I'm going to allow it. But I also am tired of what I'm now going to refer to as the Chewbacca effect of killing a character and bringing them right back. Like, can we not fuck with the audience that hard, please? Over and over and over and over and over again. Like, you guys want to talk about cliches? How about the same gag in every movie? Like, you talked about the slow bureaucrat again. What the fuck? The sloth in Zootopia, Roz and Monsters Inc. This one, like, can we get a new gag here? Like, some of this stuff, like, I get it, your journey, you're just trying to play separate ways, but come on, man, write a new tune here, come up with a new gag. Like, some of this is just lazy writing. And bringing Wade back, I was like I said, on the one hand, it works. On the other hand, it's like, really, again with this? Like, are we gonna do this in every movie now, where we kill a character and immediately bring him back? Like, there's no time to mourn the loss of the character.
Again, see our review next week.
Shit. Shut up, Robert. So
Mark, it's a multiverse movie. That's not a spoiler.
Fair. So overall, I tend to agree with the sentiment that this is low upper tier, high mid tier Pixar. I would say this for me is somewhere in the Toy Story 2 Brave, area, Finding Dory, where it has, it's good. It's really good. It's not perfect, but it doesn't quite cross over into the toys descending into hell territory of Toy Story 3. The ugly cry. My daughter and I talked about this before when we were hanging out today. How Inside Out, Coco. There's been a couple of Pixar movies where I have watched them and I was inconsolable. Like I like my fucking face hurt. I was crying so hard. And if I think that's any way to measure a movie, this one got tears out of me, but not quite. I had a headache and needed to leg down after the movie. Dude, I got wrecked by Coco. Coco was like a bat to the face.
I still remember when I saw Coco, I walked out, my face was swollen from how hard I was crying. And this usher just gives me this weird look as I return my 3D glasses. And I just look at him like, shut up, I just saw Coco.
My daughter, you ever have a cry with another person where you're talking? So I heard myself talk about this today with Gavin. When the late Owen Hart passed away and they did the tribute to Owen Hart the next night on Raw. Bear with us, Alexis. They did the
Owen Hart died in my hometown. Most of the guys I graduated with were at that event.
Anytime we bring up wrestling, you get like a PTSD. So I was just like, just bear with me here.
It's like, no, I know about Owen Hart. Okay, that's part of that's part of Kansas City.
So the story I told when Gavin and I were talking about remembering the Ultimate Warrior after he passed away suddenly, I said it was comparable to the night after Owen Hart died. My friend John, who was on our Muppets Mayhem review, we called each other. We didn't talk the entire 2 hours we watched Raw. We just cried, and we would kind of say something through the tears, but it was like, the whole 2 hours. For 2 hours, two grown men just ugly cried to each other over the phone over this poor wrestler. That's how me and my daughter were after Coco, which is the end. My wife's trying to like collect us and like just drag our carcasses out of the theater. My son's like,
they have to sweep up.
My son's like, I want to go get food. Let's go. There's me and my daughter.
Your son didn't cry?
No, not that.
He was. He was what, 4 or 5 at the time?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, fair enough.
So anyway, that's
you kind of gotta be like, you gotta be in that like 8 to. Hang on, you gotta be 8 to 10 or over 30 for Coco to really hit you. Like,
so if she was 8, then he had to have been 5, somewhere in there. Like, I don't remember what year Coco came out, but
2017.
27. Okay, so 2017 was 6 years ago. He was 3, and she was 6.
Sure.
So anyway, and Robert, go ahead and give your review of Elemental.
Okay, let me first address it's cliched bit that's going to come out when people review this. This is people badly grasping at a concept. So let me just say this about that first, because this is one of my big criticisms of the film. If it's fair to criticize the Marvel formula, and it is, it's fair to criticize the Pixar formula.
No argument there.
That's what they're trying to do. They just they're not connecting.
Then they're not doing it well.
No, they're not. But let me translate what these poor people are trying to say.
Okay, please speak reviewer ease.
I have developed that. You've helped me do so.
That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you grow as a person, Robert, because I love you.
Yes, I take the badly fomented thoughts of the mentally damaged trying to generate traction while screaming into the void about movies and tell you what they actually mean. Because I can do that, I believe it or not. But again, we criticized the Marvel formula. The Marvel formula became more apparent much more rapidly because Marvel dumps out 3 movies a year.
Yeah.
Because everyone picked up on it faster. Or, a bunch of movies into Pixar at this point, the Pixar formula is a recognizable thing.
27 movies.
And it's not unfair to say this adheres a little bit too stringently to the Pixar formula. And the formula isn't just what if X had feelings. That's kind of the jumping off point from brainstorming. The Pixar formula is the structure, which is very simplistic and pretty darn rigid. it's actually one of the annoying things about some of the lower quality Pixar films. You can almost feel that, like, if they'd been able to break structure a little bit, they might have been able to do more than they did creatively. But this is very much in that particular wheelhouse. It is, here's our quirky cast of characters, here's the randomness of the universe throwing them together, here's something that goes wrong, we kind of fix it, but that leads to another problem, that leads to another problem, that leads to a big blow up, that leads to resolution, that leads to emotional come down. And again, it's not that there's not some semblance of that with every story, because again, if you abstract this far enough, I'll wind up at the same place, more or less, very few exceptions. The problem is that Pixar, again, it feels like it's a formula a little bit with their structure, and that's at play here. I'm with you guys on the animation. This is a gorgeous looking movie. Didn't love the music, if I can be honest. I think that'd be one of my other negatives. On the writing side of things, they never appropriately marry the external circumstance, the external threat to the internal conflict, which is one of the things that, again, any good movie, not just Pixar, but any really good movie does this. Whatever they're fighting in the real world mirrors or reflects in some respect the interpersonal or the internal conflict. We don't get that here at all. In fact, the whole it's flooding thing feels very tacked on. Like, that almost felt like a studio note.
Oh, I was going to say, it felt like they created a ticking clock. You know, we need to, in order to create artificial tension, let's create a ticking clock that they have to deal with or the world ends. Which I don't know when they went. I'm going to look it up real quick while you talk, but then I'll just cut you off. But I think, depending on when they went into principal photography on this, I'm wondering how much of this is a reaction to the, the nameless disease of unknown origin, or how much existential dread our good friends in Hollywood are experiencing with regards to climate change and some of the other, the sky is falling things that cause some folks massive amounts of anxiety. Because now that you're mentioning it, I'm wondering how much of that played into the writing.
I couldn't tell you. I can just tell you it's not done well. I mean, the entire third act, when they're gonna break up so they can get back together, and then then the dam breaks.
Hang on, thank you, Daffy. Hang on 1 second. Peter Sohn, who previously directed the feature film The Good Dinosaur. Well, there's a problem.
Well, hang on. In fairness to Peter Sohn and The Good Dinosaur, The Good Dinosaur had a very troubled production long before the director was attached to it.
Sure.
More like The Mediocre Dinosaur.
Thank you.
I hate that movie got buried under so many problems with it, because it had two incredibly wonderful messages that, frankly, I don't think get mentioned enough, especially in kids' movies.
They had to have rushed this because they're talking about hiring the writer in 2022. Or no, wait. Keep going, because I may have read that wrong.
Okay. Because the movie deals with it primarily deals with themes of immigration and xenophobia. I mean, primarily might be a bit of a stretch, but that's the big underlying thing. I'm going to give the writing team credit for the following. They abstracted the Fire Nation or Fireland or whatever enough that it carries resonance sort of no matter where you come from. There's obvious, you mentioned the director is Korean. There's some obvious East Asian stuff going on there with those characters.
Should be added, Ember's voice actress is Asian.
All right, it's saying here it was a 7-year development period, so at the very least 2016, which doesn't really deal with COVID, but definitely I could definitely see people writing, who are working on the script for this being, inspired anxiously by climate change. Just kind of projecting, maybe. I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you're projecting a little bit there, but whatever. So the point there was they didn't make the fire people a direct analog in the sense that the language they speak actually feels kind of Russian or some kind of Slavic derivation.
I was gonna go with second generation wave of like Slavs and Italians and Poles.
I thought it actually had a very Southern Pacific feel to it.
Really?
Hang on.
I thought it was very Middle Eastern for some reason. I
Are
mean,
you just fucking throwing things out there. Come on.
No, I swear to God.
No, not you. Fucking Smiley down there.
No, for the record, if you've never heard actual like Samoan or Tongan, I can see that. This is just again to the credit of
I don't
the
know, man. I
writer.
looked at that dad and I thought Captain Lou Albano.
Again, the dad, the guy who voices the dad is from the Philippines, so.
Okay. I was getting a little illy, but
Look,
Italian immigrants. But that maybe that's just my age.
Hang on, but that's kind of the point. These aren't analog for Chinese immigrants or Korean immigrants or whatever.
Hey, we ain't whatever. We Italian.
There's a lot of people who have immigrated here. Okay, we all did at some
What's
point.
the matter, you?
What do you think was the accent too much for the commercial?
What you expected to walk down the street in Firetown and hear cholera? I've got cholera.
Hey, Robert, I was listening to one of our alternative commentaries today where I referred to a referee as Joey Spaghetti. And then I said, "Hey, what's the matter? Why didn't Luigi stop the fight?" Keep going.
There are those refs. But again, like we all just kind of made the point, like we all got something different out of that.
Yeah.
And that's because it's written well enough to just be the immigrant story rather than X group of immigrants and their story at this time period. And that actually does make it a little more timeless than very specific stories. So I want to give credit for that. I think the only joke I laughed at, because I'm kind of dead inside, near the end when Wade is going to, my one-way ticket to anywhere but here, and his uncle gives him a portrait, like a painting. It's just a man awash in sadness, and it's just like a portrait of Wade. Like that got me a little bit. That was kind of funny.
Wade kind of looks like Osmosis Jones a little bit.
You're not wrong.
By the way, look, I know that anyone watching, especially if it's just the first time watching, wink, and you're like, ooh, these guys are a little neckbeardy, a little bitter. Hey, fuck you, okay? There's a joke in this movie where Wade shows up and he's fucking buff like Batista, and she's like, arr, and then he immediately lets himself go, like you do, and he's like, now he's a slumpy looking guy, and she's like, oh. We're not the only ones, man. Like fucking men wrote that joke. Men.
I hate to admit it because this scene was played in the trailers, so usually that means I'm not going to laugh when I finally see it in theaters. Mm-hmm. But the damn Marco Polo joke got a chuckle out of me. It's like it was cute. It was just like, oh, that's adorable.
So if you fall in water, will you die? Like, yes, you sociopath. Kids. Again, as far as my other major criticisms go, here's a couple of things about this. Let me do one thing real fast. I'm going to yell at both sides of the theoretical aisle here, so give me just a second. If I annoy you first, if I happen to annoy you first, I'm going to annoy the other guys in a minute, so just bear with me. They did a bit in the press tour for this, in the press releases, where it's like, hey, we've got our first non-binary character, one of these globs of water. Stop. Why are you doing this? You're courting disaster. Please stop. You are just trying to get yourself kicked.
I think they did say that Wade's sister had a girlfriend, so I'm assuming that's what they were talking about. It was just he just mentioned it in passing when he introduced him because he said it's like this is so and so, and my the only reason I caught that is because the girlfriend's name was Ghibli, Studio Ghibli reference.
Yes, which I certainly appreciated.
Oh, sure.
But this is like Disney going, we're going to have our first gay moment, and it's 2 seconds of Josh Gad dancing with an extra. All you did was stir up controversy, piss off a bunch of people for no reason. Stop it.
And
please.
Probably get another movie banned out of the Middle East.
Yeah, and probably China. So please, stop doing this. You're not helping anyone. To the other side of the aisle, who got up in arms over this. Please stop.
It was a background character.
It's an exceptionally minor character in 2 seconds of screen time that's probably edited out for international release. It has nothing to do with the story. It has nothing to do with anything. Please, Mark, we're all old enough here to remember when the culture war first kind of kicked off. 20 years in the trenches now, and it has consumed everything. I don't mind having a discussion about cultural values and the morality of certain stories and film messages. I really don't. We've had them here. When appropriate, it's utterly immaterial to anything related to this. So, Pixar and Disney, you're in a bad spot anyway. Stop courting disaster. That's all you did here. To the other side of the aisle, your constant outrage over this kind of crap is wearing thin, especially when it's over nothing. And I'm more or less on your side of the metaphorical aisle here. Stop it. This helps nothing and no one. I hate you both. Knock it off.
Everyone listen to Dad.
Let me put it this way, Robert. Would you be okay? Let's just call it like it is. The non-binary character is, I guess, Wade's sister. And again, it's a passing line. This is my sister so-and-so and her girlfriend Ghibli. And I think they mentioned they're both art students at the art school or something. I think that was something like that. If they kept that line in, but Pixar and Disney made no, announcements or anything like that about how we were going to have a non-binary character, and it was just in a passing. It's like, oh, that's my sister and her girlfriend. Would you have been okay with that?
What does it matter what Robert thinks? The point of it is that you're sitting there in an audience with your kids, and if you hear someone say, this is my daughter and her girlfriend, parent A isn't going to react to it and doesn't care. And may have kids who didn't even hear it because it's like, is there something visual on screen that's interesting? No, it's dialogue. Who gives a shit?
I'm just trying to get into. I'm just trying to understand, Robert. That's
parent B is going to be like, "What the fuck?" Yet again, I try to come to a nice family movie and I got to hear gay shit with my kids, and now then possibly kid going, did he just say girlfriend and daughter and my girlfriend? What's up with that, Ma?
Well, by way of look to anyone out there going, Mark's exaggerating. By way of example, from my personal theater, when I went to see this, at the end, the old fire couple actually has a line when Ember and Wade are leaving that says, "That's fine, go out. It leaves more time for hanky-panky."
Yeah, I kind of went, ugh, with
there was a small child, I imagine around the age of between like 5 and 8, in the row behind me, who very audibly said, "What's hanky-panky?"
You see, son, when a
cackle, but look, here's the thing. Right now, I don't know how Illumination gets away with any of this shit.
I laughed at it, but
Illumination somehow manages to do adult humor for adults without pissing adults off. I don't know why. I don't know how they manage this alchemy, but they do. Disney can't right now. If you're Disney, you really do have to have a standards and practice person go through this stuff. Going, is there anything that's going to offend the fucking streets? Because if it is, get it out of there. And to Robert's point, to I think the more important point is you're losing money hand over fist with every single one of these movies. This is the worst. We're going to talk about it in a few minutes if we ever get there. This is the worst performing Pixar movie ever. This is worse performing than The Good Dinosaur, and that lost the gross national product of fucking New Guinea. All right? So at some point, either commit to this and go down with the ship, or knock it off and try to actually make a buck on your movies. Robert, you can speak for yourself, but it doesn't really matter what Robert thinks or how this would have made better. The point of it is, if Disney is going to continue to do this, they're going to continue to lose their audience. We can demonstrate that with fucking numbers at this point. If the line is going down. Sorry. Suck it. the line is like every single one of these movies. Like last year, we had a good laugh at Lightyear. This is just depressing. Like this is really bad.
So, in an effort to answer Alexis's question in good faith, I didn't even care about this one. I'm yelling about it because it's part of the story around this particular movie. I don't care personally. I don't care for the most part.
There is no making it better. Either do it or don't do it. Do it, commit to it, and suffer the consequences, or don't do it and maybe try to make money on your next movie. Maybe try to win back some of the parents you lost.
If we're talking about, again, like procedurally here, yeah, they're kind of they're trying to be half pregnant and it ain't working.
Yeah.
So, again, yelled at both sides of that issue because I think they're both being stupid. Look, man,
I'm smirking, but it's not going away anytime soon either.
I know it's not, but I got to make a stand here. Like, sometimes...
on a podcast barely anyone watches. This is where we fight.
No, well, look, it's not about this movie. Like, this is about other times when I think a movie's gone too far one way or the reaction has gone too far the other. I'm happy to yell at either side of this.
That's fine. We do plenty of that on here. I'm okay.
Well, again, like when I say I have to make a stand here a little bit about this one, because this movie doesn't deserve it.
Okay.
Like Lightyear, you courted disaster, you deserved it, and your movie sucked.
I want to. Someone's going to be asking, "What do you mean by it didn't deserve it?" So, you take a movie like Avatar, which the world saw twice.
So which one?
This last one.
Either.
And it made over $2 billion. You want to start screaming and yelling about gay shit in Avatar, which I'm not saying it was there or not there. My point is, that's the movie you scream and yell about. The Pixar movie nobody saw that bombed terribly, probably a waste of time.
Well, this is kind of why I'm again sort of taking the line I am here, because how do I phrase this? The outrage merchants on, again, both sides of the aisle, because let's not pretend this is either side of whatever line you want to draw here. Like, we live in a world that has overly polarized both sides of things, and that's where all the discussion is. That's where all the news articles, YouTube videos,
half my TikTok content,
whatever. Like, the outrage merchants are out. This is what they do. They farm on this crap and profit off of it. And when you try to, this is also a little bit of like warning both sides about The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Like, if you sound the alarm about the messaging in Elemental, you, my friend, cannot be trusted to sound the alarm. There's nothing here worth it. But you also don't feel bad about kicking Pixar when it's down. And I'm not even saying they don't deserve to be down, for the record. I'm saying this is the basest of pandering from both sides to their audience about something that does not deserve it. And it really grates on my nerves a little bit. So that's where I am with that.
On a different podcast, I probably would have made the same. On a different movie, I would have made the same argument, and I feel like I have.
Yeah, we've had this discussion before. We'll have it again in the future, but
we had this discussion over Lightyear.
Yeah, which was a terrible movie.
Right, anything else, Robert? We're at an hour and a half. We haven't gotten to the money yet.
I know.
I was gonna say we're gonna talk longer than this movie was.
Frequently. Just kind of in summation, this is a perfectly lovely little film. Like, it's gonna get lost. I mean, we're about to talk about the money. It's not doing well financially. And it's kind of a shame.
It's an understatement.
It is. The Flash is going to lose more money than this because they spent a lot more than it on this.
Well, they've been making The Flash since the year of the flood, and I mean the flood in Elemental.
We're going to have a conversation next week entitled, "Was this worth canning Batgirl for?"
The answer is yes. Look, I don't care what had to be sacrificed. I didn't have to watch Batgirl. I'm happy.
No, now you got to watch Flash.
Next week, people. Next week.
Look, I'll get to yell about Ezra Miller just being the worst next week, and I can deal with that. Batgirl would have been like
Loki.
Hang on. Here's how our Batgirl review would have gone. Let's hop into the alternate universe here. Barry Allen broke everything. Now Mark and I reviewed Batgirl. We love Brendan Fraser. The rest of this can go jump off the highest mountain on Earth.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
This movie is not.
You're the one that hits the button? The fuck?
This movie is not, as a minor aside, this is probably not going to hold your young child's attention. You're going to want at least 6. If you're thinking about age ranges, like sometimes you can get them a little younger to watch certain movies. There's not enough here to hold the attention of a 5-year-old.
Well, they showed a trailer for the Paw Patrol movie. Go show them that.
Well, we'll see what your future ex-Mrs. Winfree Lola Landchops thinks about all that. But until we get there, let us first talk about my favorite part of the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. If you're here for the first time, this is the part that I enjoy the most. I mean, craft review is fine, plot synopsis, whatever. But here we talk about the most important thing. This is cinema. This is the money.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
You shameless capitalist, you. I love you.
In the year of our Lord, dearly beloveds, this movie with a $200 million budget made $50.8 million. I often wonder what it was like to live in the 30s when the stock market crashed. Because we are watching a studio fucking plummet to its death with Pixar.
Well, you were a lot closer to that realization than you might think. Disney stock is down and is bordering on being less than 90. Like it's hovering around, like it might hit $80 a share, which is a historic low.
I often talk about like when I'm able to have some money and I can pay down some debt and I have extra money to invest in the stock market. Like, I want to, you buy the things you use, and movie person, buy Disney stock. By the time I get around to buying it, it's gonna be fucking worthless. It's gonna be that scene from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy where they're using leaves as tender, like so inflation's at like 1,000,000%. That's gonna be Disney. It's gonna be fucking worthless stock.
I'm still waiting for the day that they decide to burn down Disney World, blame DeSantis, and collect the insurance money.
I don't want that day to happen at all.
I don't want it to happen either, but that doesn't mean I don't think it's gonna happen.
At the rate we're going here in Florida, they may not have to blame DeSantis. He might actually do it.
Hang on. One, don't accuse our future president of attempted arson.
Oh God! Please don't make me throw up, Robert.
No. Except that President DeSantis is coming, and he's coming for you. I'm sorry, he's just coming. Just coming. I don't know where that came from. You, Alexis. Sorry.
We're not here to talk too much the politics of that, so I'm just going to leave that. But
all right.
Hang on, no. Because we're talking money, before we move on to specific weekend results here, let me just, for the record. So this is more rumor than like full-on confirmed at the moment, but it started circulating, and it's been picked up by some pretty notable trades. So Hulu, years ago, was a joint venture between Disney, Fox Studios, and Comcast.
It sounds evil. It sounds like the beginning of a joke.
It does, doesn't it?
Well, Comcast, Disney, and Fox Studios walk into a bar.
Out comes Hulu. And the legal stuff around that has been interesting. Then Disney bought Fox, and Disney assumed Fox's potential part of what they would have to pay Comcast for Hulu. Comcast has stopped their side of funding Hulu, so Disney has to buy them out. This is contractually guaranteed. Again, rumor. For some time next year, first quarter, I think. Disney has to pay them. Now, here's the kick. The only argument at this point is what they have to pay, because they have to pay basically 2/3 of Hulu's value. And depending on where on the particular valuation you give Hulu, that might be more than Disney has on hand. Well, again, like, look, the Wall Street
I'm
Journal.
sorry, I'm picturing like the Flash headline, the paper that comes on screen. It's just like, Disney to sell theme parks to Universal to pay for Hulu. Film at 11.
You joke.
I don't.
But
I see
again,
the future.
so again, the argument in question for them seems to be what's the value of Hulu? Well, at the height of the streaming wars, Hulu's valuation was in the billions. Maybe erroneously, but that's what they claimed its value was.
Inflated.
The Wall Street Journal claimed that. So we have publications of note claiming these inflated valuations.
Mm-hmm.
If you're Comcast, that's the valuation you point at and go, pay me what you owe me based on this.
Right.
And if you're Disney, you're like, Hulu's not worth the lint in my pocket. And you negotiate to try and get somewhere. But again, the kind of long and short of this is Disney's current cash on hand, and people who look at the financial side of this, they tend to only have around 200 million in quasi liquid assets. So if Comcast calls and says, pay us $700 million, or whatever the valuation winds up being, they're gonna have to figure that out. And if Disney has to start selling stuff, again, there are some wild rumors floating around. I mean, the comical one is, you know what's on the table if they have to sell stuff, because they've destroyed every bit of its value. They can sell Lucasfilm.
Dude, they're not going to get $4 billion fucking dollars for Lucasfilm, which means that they would have to take such a loss on that.
No, hang on. So here's the
some people don't know this. They paid $4 billion for Lucasfilm. 4 of the movies made over $1 billion, and everything else is fucking tanked. And then they threw millions and millions of dollars into 3 or 4 Disney Plus shows. And as we've talked about numerous times on this show, Disney Plus's value has sunk to the bottom. They don't have enough subscribers to cover the cost of the new content they created across the board, whether it was Marvel, Lucasfilm, etc. Not to mention that if you're just looking at watches, which has nothing to do with money that you've earned, but let's assume it does for just a second, that every person who watches a thing is worth X amount of value. Willow, nobody watched. The Andor, nobody watched. So the people watched Obi-Wan Kenobi, but I mean, I think they started watching it and then the audience fell off, something awful.
Well, it's that's got issues.
Yeah. So my point.
For the record, go check out our reviews of Andor and Obi-Wan on the website.
If we're talking about quality, Andor is actually a quality show, but like you said, nobody watched it.
Nobody watched it. So my point is, at this point, Lucasfilm is so damaged. First of all, it's nowhere. It's not worth $4 billion. It might not be worth $1 billion at this point. Second, who the fuck would want it?
Well, again, hang on. 2 things. So one, they're about to destroy Indiana Jones, the last vestige of something valuable in Lucasfilm.
Lucasfilm holding on by one stick, holding up the entire tent, and they're about to knock it over.
They're about to knock that over. That's good. But so 2 things about who might buy Lucasfilm in theory if it's available. Please tell me
Lionsgate.
No.
I would laugh.
If you want to know the funniest answer,
the
funniest answer is George Lucas buys it back for less than he got paid for it.
I will never call him autistic again if that happens. He will be my personal fucking hero. Because not since Vince McMahon sold back the television rights to fucking Ted Turner, have I seen a worse business deal end up so good for the guy who didn't deserve it. Just look up Black Sabbath.
The other kind of thing that might exist and is probably more likely if they're actually selling stuff is some Saudi princeling who's heir to trillions of dollars in oil is a Star Wars fan and says, I want.
And then we get all remade movies, all featuring Luke Skywalker killing people with a lightsaber, and it will make $1 zillion. All right. The Flash was the #1 movie of the weekend.
Not surprising, but boy, did that thing bomb too.
Yeah, it did. We'll talk about that more next week. $55 million gross over 4,000 theaters. Not good. Elemental debuted at #2 with $29 million. I've already played the sound effect. Spider-Man fell from 2 to 3. Transformers 1 to 4. Speaking of bombing,
66% drop. Everyone who saw that saw it for opening week,
and we're done now. We'll wait for Paramount Plus. Little Mermaid dropped from 3 to 5.
Also bombing. Look at the bombs in the top of this week, man. It's just it is the preparation for the Normandy invasion out here. Just carpet bombing.
Oppenheimer.
The Blackening debuted at number 6. Guardians of the Galaxy dropped from 4 to 7. The Boogeyman 5 to 8. Fast Death 6 to 9. Asteroid City apparently, for a movie that was in 6 theaters, apparently broke records. Good for it. Good for you, Wes Anderson.
I think Asteroid City's wide release is coming up. It's still limited at the moment.
Yeah. But for its limited release, apparently it did really, really well. What I read.
I have not watched a lot of Wes Anderson film, and I think I need to. I saw his.
Sean and I are doing a triple feature of the 2 big ones that everyone's seen, the ones that before the Life Aquatic, the Royal Tenenbaums and Entropy.
So, I was gonna say, you're wide enough, Robert. You'd like his films.
Well, hang on. I'm curious about them not because of that. I'm curious about them because I saw someone describe his style of filmmaking as anti-empathy. Well, hang on.
Okay.
Hang on.
Wes Anderson makes films as if emotions didn't exist.
Well, hang on. He doesn't make films as though emotions didn't exist. He makes films that do not put the audience in the emotional shoes of the character.
He's the anti-Ari Aster.
Yeah.
Right.
And the supreme irony of that, it means that Wes Anderson's movies actually do carry significant emotional punch.
All right. Worldwide box office, Super Mario Brothers still the only movie to have crossed the $1 billion mark. At the rate it's going, it might be the only one.
Again, man, you and I said this a while ago. At this point, the only movie that has a shot is Mission Impossible.
Yeah. Well, Mission Impossible. The critics' reviews are now starting to bubble out, and they're saying it's amazeballs. So that's got Tom Cruise, a bona fide, the last bona fide star in Hollywood. His movies actually make money. This one's good. If I had to bet on another movie crossing the $1 billion mark, it's that one.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy is petering out in the 800 millions. Fast X jumped up to 678. Spider-Man.
Can we just hang on? Can we take 1 minute on Fast X still losing money at almost $700 million?
Yeah. Again, stop making movies that are fucking $300 million budgets. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is doing really well. It beat Ant-Man. It knocked Ant-Man and the Wasp out of the 4th spot finally.
Well, spiders do eat ants and wasps, so
Terrific.
That was a line worthy of Zachary, man.
Somebody had to do it.
Little Mermaid is dying. Dude, I'll tell you what.
Hang on.
The mainstream movie media is so disingenuous. Like, they're still touting the Little Mermaid as like a success story. Like, do you people not know fucking math at this point? Do you not know how numbers work? It's not.
The idiocy of some of these people is truly staggering. Dude, our bet for a while, Mark, was would The Little Mermaid make more than Ant-Man and the Wasp?
It might not. I mean, it's within 10 million. If it does 10 million this weekend, it does, but not by much.
It's not going to do 10 million in the weekend.
John Wick at 427. Transformers, yikes, 270.
Yeah.
278. Creed 275 and Dungeons and Dragons is 208.
So my question is though, did Elemental really deserve to bomb as much as it did? Because I don't think it did. I look at those numbers and I go, I don't think it deserved to get as little attention as it has.
Well,
deserving got nothing to do with it.
Hang on. One, he's right. Two, in a vacuum, no. This is a perfectly fine movie. It's better than like the last 3 Pixar movies, probably put together if I went back and double checked. But
Turning Red, Luca, Lightyear.
Hang on, I gotta bring that up. So, Turning Red was the period movie that the parents didn't like.
No.
Which was then followed by Lightyear, which was the gay movie that nobody liked. Just followed by fucking this one. Like, patterns matter, people.
Again, like in a vacuum, no, it doesn't deserve this. Because it's a good movie, ultimately, and that should not be punished. Unfortunately, nothing exists in a vacuum, and Pixar's brand and Disney's brand have been seriously damaged over the last 4 years. They've just taken hit after hit after hit after hit, to the point where a largely anodyne, inoffensive film, and again, I already said screw you to the people who are up in arms over this one. It's not worth it. It just suffers because the last ones haven't been good. And it's not fair, but it is entirely predictable, and it is the way things work.
Fortunately, Pixar hasn't had a bona fide, a heart-moving piece since Soul, and that was released at the beginning of the plague.
Yeah, this is the most emotionally resonant thing they've done, like you said, since Soul by a mile. They're just kind of desperate, so desperate they're saying, hey, let's do Toy Story 5, and you people, you have already murdered that corpse and pissed on it. Your grim necromancy will find no power here.
I want to throw something out there really quick, and then we got to move on to the reviews, but the critical review. The CEO of Pixar was like, yeah, the reason why our movies are bombing is because because the last 3 movies that, because the world ended, went straight to Disney Plus. We've trained our audiences to just wait. No. I mean, yeah, but that's not the only reason. You've also trained your movies to wait because you keep putting movies in it that the vast majority of people don't want to see. Like, and anyone listening to this, it's like, it's not like I care. I was going to take my daughter to a drag show. I'm not the problem here. But shut up.
We're not getting on that fucking soapbox.
Shut up. I'm not the problem. I'm not the one not taking my kids because, oh my God, a gay thing happened in a movie. However, I do speak for the trees, and those people fucking matter. And there's more than 50% of them out there. There was a Newsweek article that I reposted on my Facebook that said, it's still more than 50%, but less and less people are in favor of, gay marriage. And I think there was another statistic that went along with that.
Hang on. In fairness, what they were measuring was like, it wasn't, the question involved was not like, should we undo?
No,
should we
it was to approve.
It was a combination of like approval and there was one other metric that was in there that, again, is kind of an ephemeral thing. And the reality is, and look, again, Mark, you and I have a long history here. You and I know each other. So when I say this, when there's a long campaign that gets louder about something, it just turns people off the longer it goes on.
At some point, like, you had people who were probably nonplussed about anything having to do with the LGBTQI community, and then as soon as they had to confront it in some way, they were like, it's like not for me. And it's and there's a huge chasm between not for me and actively trying to take people's rights. And I'm not going to get into it now. My point is, this is about families and their kids and what they want their kids exposed to. And I talked about this last night with Sean. And I'll bring it up again. There are people who are like, I don't care. I don't care about alternative lifestyles. I don't care about anything that is within the LGBTQI milieu, but I don't want my kids exposed to it. Okay, you can't sell them a movie then, like fucking Turning Red or Lightyear. You just can't. I don't know how many more ways I can fucking say this. And
the unfortunate thing, and let me stress the unfortunate side of this, because again, there's the gay stuff in Lightyear was nothing. I can't stress enough how much of a nothing it was. It was utterly nothing.
It's all been nothing. But I think the worst offender was Strange World. But again, different studio, slightly different studio.
And that movie had way more problems to worry about than that.
Yes,
it had a lot of them, and we went over all of them in detail.
You can check out our review.
You can,
and our TikTok.
I'll say Mark had me listen to the TikTok to find a clip, and I was just like, wow, that movie was so bland that I can't even remember half of the stuff we said in the review.
But it's unfortunate when you tag the umbrella of the agenda, right? So when you put everything under an umbrella term like that, and you start people thinking that way, and this is again for better or for worse, but suddenly non-binary background character who has, again, 2 seconds of airtime and is a blob of water, for crying out loud.
I don't even think they have a line. If they might have, like, if they said anything, it was like, hi, wow, cool, wah.
Again, utterly
nothing. Because all the characters cry.
I'm sorry, what was that last one again?
Wah.
Because they all cry. She's right. But because you now think of that as part of the agenda that has people stripping down and flashing on the White House lawn. Now, these two things are not the same, people. I don't care about the character in this movie one iota.
All right. We got 'em.
Indecency on the White House lawn, I actually do have opinions about.
So this movie, anyone that was gonna see this movie has already seen it.
Yeah,
It is
it's-
not gonna make any money. It is another black eye for Pixar. I don't know what they're gonna do to pull themselves out of this. Like, I the last thing I'm gonna say, and then I'm just gonna hit the button to go to the next thing. This is the part of the movie where we talk about, like projections and whatnot. There's no point in even talking about that. It's going to make no money. It's at this point actually throwing leaves at this movie. It would have more currency than it currently does. And even to getting into like this open week coming up of no movies and then Indiana Jones, like who gives a shit? Like this movie is doing so badly, it's not worth talking about. What is worth talking about for just a minute, is what does Pixar have to do at this point to re-educate people? Because even if you give credence to the line about, well, we've trained our audiences to follow stuff on Disney Plus, and we've talked about the bigger trend of the movie theater experience by and large is dying, and people don't want to go, and people want to watch stuff at home. I don't know if there is an answer to that question, and we might never see Pixar return to its former glory.
Well, let me push back on that just a hair, if you don't mind.
Sure.
The theater-going experience is not dying in the way that people just stopped caring. There are two major problems as I see it. One of which is out of studio's control for the most part. And that's just cost. It's inflation. And they have nothing to do with that.
Friend of the show, Andrew Graham, took him and his 3 kids to the movies, and it was like $100 Canadian.
Yeah, again, the studios have no control over this.
Right.
The only thing they can do in this respect, and they should do, by the way, is rein in budgets. But again, because everything costs more, that's why their budgets are so inflated. So there's a little bit, again, the stuff that's out of their control about this. Fair play. Here's the other problem. People are more than willing to go to the theater to see a movie they want to see.
An event.
But no, not just an event. Like that helps. But, Mario wasn't an event the second week when it's still making gangbusters.
Okay, fair.
Spider-Verse is not an event the second week. And it's still doing good. It still has good hold week to week. It's got decent legs. The problem is there was so much... I'm going to phrase this badly, so just forgive me if it doesn't work. There was so much crap that was shoved down the chute. And I'm going to pick on Marvel here because they're the biggest and most obvious offender, but this is not limited to them at all. I mean, come on. They were throwing out 3 to 4 movies a year. Every year. Like clockwork. Here's 3 movies. Every other year, there's an Avenger movie. Every year. And everything is backlogged. So when we greenlight Phase 5, 8 movies, here you go. And they're all in production, and they're all the same, and they're all kind of crap. And people have just checked out on the overly commoditized assembly line style of film production that's come out. People are going to go see Mission Impossible 7. Look, when people say there's superhero fatigue, as The Flash fails. Guardians did fine. Spider-Verse is doing fine. Quality does matter at some point, as does brand power. And you've lost both of those on multiple fronts. This is not just Marvel. This is a lot of things.
Okay. Hey, we got to move forward. I know. We're late and I got to get up soon.
So that's the only thing I'm going to say there is, what does Pixar have to do? They need 3 movies in a row that don't court controversy, that help rebuild trust, and that preferably don't cost, one of the small islands of Hawaii to produce.
All right. With that said, here we go with the critical review.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Not to get totally distracted, but do you see the Rotten Tomato score for Indiana Jones?
Yeah, and
Yep.
that's generous.
Yep. All right. So the movie at hand.
It was a lot lower.
The movie at hand. The audience score was 92%, which tracks for me.
That's fine.
The critical score is 75%.
Also tracks.
The Chat GPT for Rotten Tomatoes says Elemental may not satisfy as fully as the greatest Pixar pictures, but it remains a solid story told with dazzling visual flair.
Fair.
All right. Do a couple of these, and then we'll call on a night. Eric Childress of Movie Madness Podcast. Pixar's strained attempt at cultural segregation struggles to give its characters depth along with metaphors that don't track with the universe's basic safety precautions. Okay? It ultimately goes for the heartstrings late, but then my heart just wasn't in it. Oh.
Okay, can we just talk for half a second about how this wasn't segregation, you moron?
Yeah, I was gonna say, when you write it like that, you're either an idiot or, let's just play it safe and hope this dude's an idiot.
I'm going to assume he has misconstrued segregation with somewhat natural cultural divides that get drawn by people as they start mingling. Because, look, humans are somewhat tribal creatures. You like being around people that are like you, and then you slowly expand your circle, and this is how the great melting pot of society is grown. It's a beautiful thing. It's not segregation. Segregation is enforced, you ignoramus.
Although, admittedly, there is one scene of segregation with the Ember and her dad originally trying to go see the flower.
That was racist.
Yeah.
Rachel Wagner of RachelReviews.net. I left Elemental thinking, why was so much of that about permits? I shouldn't be thinking such questions when the narrative isn't compelling. That's where my mind goes.
Again, this is not the most. If you don't care about the characters, if that doesn't resonate with you, the story here is not gonna wow you. And for the record, I don't think she's entirely wrong in saying there's a shocking amount of time spent in the weirdest possible bits of the world building here.
Kevin Carr, fat guy at the movies, our friend, says,
Hey, Kevin.
It's a little too on the nose as it struggles to stick to its own premise, but still offers a sweet story that the family can enjoy.
Not wrong.
He's not wrong.
It's feel bad picking on him. I don't know. Maybe not feel bad. I feel like we made him better. We
have agreed with it. We have agreed with the last few reviews.
Well, his shit's not as dumb as it used to be. We bullied him into being better.
He found us, and we just oh, these idiots, these jackasses on this other podcast are making fun of me every week. I have to do better. Yay, success through bullying works.
All right, this is the last one because I don't want to do this anymore. Nate Adams of The Only Critic needs more chemistry. Fuck, is that you, fucking Zach? Is that you? Are you Nate Adams and The Only Critic?
Hang on, Jeff's in here somewhere. So if you,
hang on. Actually, I missed one of your wives. I gotta go back now.
No, did you?
I didn't want to do any more of this, but then I saw one of your wives, and now I have to. I'm compelled. Carla Renata of the Curvy Film Critic, the future ex Mrs. Robert Winfree, infused with
for the record. When Mark says future ex, he means one date that goes very badly and we both blog about. There's nothing more than that here.
Infused with just as bright and bold colors as the characters themselves, at its core, Elemental is a story about relationships while glaringly illustrating how surface differences are almost always obsolete when it comes to penetrating the here. What?
I assume she meant heart.
I hope so.
I'm hoping that was just a really bad cutoff from the website.
Yeah, one would hope.
Jeffrey Harris.
Hang on. As a minor aside, the relationship between fire and water is not a surface level difference.
Jeffrey Harris of 401 Mania. While the characters are made of gases, dirt, fire, and liquid, they do not lack emotional depth. Thanks, Jeff. The story was lovely, beautiful, imaginative, and emotionally resonant. Element City is beautifully realized and a visual feast to behold on the big screen. These are all facts.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
Mhm.
Again, the visuals of this are hands down the best thing.
Let's see if there's any more of anyone's husbands or wives. Zach, I haven't picked at you in a while. The future Xmas is Zach Strobel, Amy Nicholson of the New York Times, former newspaper, top critic. Oddly, it's the most human rom-com in years. Yo, get your bitch under control, Zach. The fuck, man.
You know what? I will say this film is most of the rom-com shit that's been peddled out in the last few years.
Robert.
I remember when I was they did advertise this as a rom-com because I remember there was when I was waiting up before the movie started, like they showed during the up short, there was like a little girl. She had to be like 4 or 5 years old. She's like, "When's the boy and girl movie gonna start?"
The future Xmas is Zach Strobel, Grace Randolph of Beyond the Trailer.
Oh, do not saddle him with her. For the love of God, he does not deserve that.
Quiet, I'll get to you later. Absolutely charming in Pixar's first date movie. Ugh. Elemental is very romantic, yet tells a moving story about immigration. The voice cast is fantastic. The story is clever, and the animation is stunning.
First date movie was Up. Check your history.
Yeah, that's an odd thing to kind of like. No, this isn't actually the first date movie that you could go.
Grace Randolph, not in possession of facts.
Grace Randolph, not in possession of brain.
That also. Oh, here we go. This will be the last one. The future Xmas is Robert Winfree, Tanya Lamb of Lola Lamb Chops. The best Xmas is Robert Winfree. Elemental is deeply moving. It may take a while to get there, but it's worth the wait. Yeah.
This is just why it didn't work. Like,
Woohoo! I got out of this without any of my exes.
You did like this. Well,
I'm really tired. This is what happens when we go.
I was gonna say we've referenced Sean quite a bit.
God, shut up! No Warren podcast. God, it's like I'm trying to keep the peace around here. All right,
Robert, do me a favor. Don't ever bring that up again.
Speaking of my good friend Sean Comer, we passive aggressive cast. We did our second part of our 3-part series on queer cinema last night. We talked about Boys Don't Cry, Ed Wood, and Gia, starring Angelina Jolie. Lots of conversation about what's going on in the world with trans people. It's definitely a little less film craft than I would have liked, but a lot of good discussion. Sean and I really batted the ball around, and we had, a good time. So check that out. We quick schedule change. We swapped out one of the movies after I watched Far From Heaven to compare it to American Beauty. So we're doing Far From Heaven next week. The Kids Are All Right and American Beauty as we close out Pride Month here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network.
Wait.
Yes.
The only connection to Pride Month and American Beauty is Kevin Spacey being Kevin Spacey.
No, there's more to it than that.
All right.
Thursday, we've got 2 Leslie and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse on movies that don't suck and some that do. I'm re-airing the night that Yzenia Rosenstrike split over his head open like an egg as we did that.
His lip. It was just his lip.
So we did that alternative commentary. We're going to re-air that on Friday. Jesse Starcher took over the Radulich Broadcasting Network one night and did a Temple of Doom alternative commentary. Who knew? That's going to go up on Saturday. And then Sunday, Metal Hammer of Doom is back from the 2014 era, the Block Talk Radio era. We're looking at Cannibal Corpse, A Skeletal Domain. Next week, The Flash. That's all I got. Zachary Strobel, show us where you pissed from.
Anyway, do you like books? Of course you do. I write books. And they're great for kids, and they're on Amazon. If you go to Amazon, which I don't even have to tell you what it is because it will enslave us. You
Better
go to
chance
Amazon.
of enslaving us than the mouse now.
Yeah, I know. It's you'd think. But anyway, you go there, you type in Zachary Strobel, which is right there, books, or you could even Google it because... And we have lots of good books. We have a book that actually has to do with race and stuff like that, but it's for kids and it's not down your throat. It's called Dinosaurs on the Moon, and it's really fun. And we have other books speaking of people that work in retail, a book that Alexis has helped us with. It's called Deborah the Retail Worker. Worked on that, and its sequel, Deborah the Substitute Teacher. I don't have a third one, so I don't have a segue for that. But we've got lots.
The third one is just falling down.
What?
The third one is just the movie falling down.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, we've got books on that. So again, just go to Amazon, type in Zachary Strobel books, or even Google, and they're reasonably priced. I'm really proud of them. Work a lot on them, trying to make more. But until then, I like to enjoy what I have. So please support. And that's about it. Also, I make some cartoons and stuff, but I don't do that no more.
All right, Alexis Hejna, show us where you pissed from.
All right. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. I am getting ready to head to the Greater Austin Comic-Con here in a few days. It's one of our favorite shows. Looking forward to working that. Afterwards, we are actually going to be taking a month off from the con circuit to get ready for a few more shows popping up in August, including the Fountain City Mini-Con, the small one here in Kansas City, and the Colorado Springs Comic-Con, which I am super excited to be heading back to, especially since I found out amongst the celebrities they got this year, we got Bruce Campbell.
Nice.
Oh, so excited about that, especially since I got guaranteed my same spot as last year, and I am right next to the celebrity pit. Woohoo!
Nice. So you need to have at least one piece of jewelry you can just gift him.
Oh, trust me, I'm working on Book of the Dead pins.
Nice.
All right. In the meantime, of course, you can always find us on our shops on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. We need to do a little restocking. We've had kind of a few crazy last few months, both with the conventions and the like, and I've had my hands full with a handful of personal stuff that I've had to take care of. But we will be adding more wire-wrap dice pendants and Monopoly include charm bracelets, hopefully here within the next few weeks after I get back from, walking on into Austin, Texas and bursting into flames as soon as I get out of my car. Of course, you can always follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. That is Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
All right, Robert, go ahead and do your plugs. Let's get out of here.
So, if you've liked this show, we thank you very much for it. Interact with the product a little bit if you can. Like, comment, subscribe, star rating, written review, whatever is applicable to your podcast platform of choice. It all helps the unholy algorithm that will soon run all of our lives. It's getting bad out there. So any of that is helpful. Share the show around Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever you do. If you happen to know someone in real life that you don't mind suggesting the show to, please do that as well. We appreciate it. You guys do a lot for us, and we're very, very grateful. We don't always sound like we are because we're surly and it's late, but believe me, that thanks comes from the heart. If you like my other stuff, I cover mixed martial arts and professional wrestling for 411mania.com. MLW Fusion on Thursday, WWE SmackDown on Friday. And I cover the UFC events on Saturdays. Last Saturday, there was what appeared to be a mediocre event on paper, featured largely mediocre fights, but a couple of really nice stoppages. And your main event was a pretty darn good fight, actually. So, thanks to that. If you want a full breakdown, you can get it at the other podcast I host, the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast, wherever you're listening to us. You can probably find me there, so thank you very much for that if you're interested. I also preview the upcoming UFC on ABC 5 card. That is an earlier morning affair this Saturday, headlined by a darn good featherweight title fight. So again, full preview over there. I won't bore you with it here. And that's it for me at the moment. We'll be back here next week for The Flash when no one else will be talking about The Flash. If you still, after this last week of Flash content and everyone laughing at it and dissecting it, if next week you still want more, we here will be to sate that particular need of yours. So stop by again. Thank you very, very much as always. Mark, you look tired. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I
All
love
right,
you,
everyone.
Gibson.
Thanks for those of you who tuned in for the first time tonight. We're sorry. Be well, be well, be safe, and behave.